There are a few decisions about money that you need to avoid if you want to build wealth. So let's take a look at those decisions, why you should avoid them, and how you can decide better. Number one is taking on loans. And it has become pretty normal to take on a loan for stuff you want to buy. I think that's particularly alarming for things that you actually could pay outright. And I think there are like two elements or dangers, if you want to call it, to this. And the first one is by taking any kind of loan, you add a level of risk to yourself and to your personal finances. And people then often compare this to businesses. But the reason why businesses take on loans is either because they don't have enough capital to begin with, or they try to reduce the tax burden, but even there it's a risk for the business when overplaying this game. And actually most businesses fail because they run out of money, so let's not model that. And also important, at least if they've done it right, a business is only liable with what's in the business. But, and that is the second thing, as a private person you are fully liable yourself. So if you cannot pay back the loan, the lender will find a way. And in my personal eyes, when taking on a loan, you are slave to the lender. Of course, with that in mind, you still can take a loan. Sometimes there is no other way. But the goal should always be to take as little as possible and pay back as fast as possible. And the third factor is that it makes you underestimating the actual price of the thing because you concentrate more on the monthly payment. I think the most unnecessary things to take a loan for are clothes and furniture, because neither your home nor your wardrobe have to be perfect right away. I think you can just take one step at a time when you have the money. A more controversial discussion is financing a car. To be honest, I don't think you should. I think you should pay it outright. And you can start small and then level up over time when you have more and also make more money. And don't get me wrong, if you need a car and want a car, I'm not in your way. I mean, I'm German and Germany is the #1 car exporting country in the world. So if someone understands that, then it's me. And actually, I think for Germans, a car is even a more important status symbol than in other countries. That's why it also hurts me that I had to sell mine. But financially at the moment, it just doesn't make sense for me to have one. Anyway, the important thing to understand is that financing a car can be a real wealth killer because the cost of the purchasing price and insurance and the maintenance and the gas, it all adds up. So if you need one for work and you cannot pay outright, you can finance, but it should not be more than 15% of your monthly net income for everything. Not so controversial when financing is buying your own home. But I want to say it just so that you heard it once. You don't have to finance your own home. If you make enough money and you save for it, you can also pay for it outright. I know of several people who did that and I thought it was actually pretty cool. But I also know that the market is not making it easy for you because housing has become very expensive, especially compared to the 1950s and 60s and 70s. Even inflation adjusted, I think housing has gone up like, I don't know, double or maybe even 3 or 4 times. But with that in mind, I think financing a home becomes especially problematic if it exceeds your financial capacity. I mean, I personally think it's crazy that people buy homes with mortgages that are calculated over 40 years. Now, one rule of thumb number is that your home should not be more than 3 to 5 times your annual net income. And another rule of thumb that also goes for rent is that you should not spend more than 30% of your monthly income on housing. Bad money decision number 2 is ignoring costs. Costs in life come in very different shapes and sizes. One of the few things that doesn't cost you anything is liking a video if you get value from this. Now, when viewed individually, costs can seem very small, but when taken all together and also over a longer period of time, it can make a real difference. Now, let's look at some different types of costs. There are account costs like account maintenance costs, costs for bank cards, costs for withdrawal or penalties. Interest rates are a type of cost, so when you take on a loan like we just talked about. Ideally, you never take one, but if, then you should always choose the one with the lowest interest rate and then also pay it off as quickly as possible. And there can also be costs from investments. For example, commissions when buying and selling stocks or also the management fees of funds. Another type of costs are taxes, and I think the biggest mistake that people make, especially when employed, is not making a tax declaration because you're just leaving a tax refund on the table. Not watching out for taxes can also mean to not use tax-advantaged accounts like individual retirement accounts, and this one does depend on the country you live in. Sometimes there might be tax-advantaged accounts but where you can only buy a certain product. And then you might be actually better off with investing yourself when your return then is better than of the specific product. But if there is no difference in what you invest in, then most of the time it's an advantage. What I will also include here in ignoring costs is to not take a look at your insurances. And this goes for two things. The first is also the monthly or the yearly costs of the insurance itself. Maybe there are other insurances out there that offer the same, but they cost less. And the second thing is the coverage. So does the insurance actually pay for the case that you're insuring? So are you prepared in case something happens in health or liability or disability, and is it enough? And also, is your insurance still up to date? For example, if you have insured your house or everything that's in your house, does it also cover the new designer sofa and all the art you bought? Or do you maybe also need to upgrade the insurance? And what's also not to be underestimated is opportunity costs. And that is when you miss out on what you are not doing. So for example, if you stay in a job that pays the salary you've always known, and you miss out on the higher salary that you would have if you would switch jobs, or you miss out on potential gains in the market because you're procrastinating on investing. Speaking of, bad money decision number 3 is not saving, not investing. And I think many people's problem is not saving at all or not saving enough, especially for the middle class when lifestyle inflation sets in. And I think people do underestimate the consequence of not doing that, of not preparing for the future and taking care of personal finances and saving for retirement. But there's another nuance to this, and I have talked to a few people I know, and many of them do save. I think that's especially true for college degree people. So they know how to live below their means, and they do save, but they let it all in their checking account or in a savings account. And although that is not wrong, at least up until you've saved for your emergency fund, but beyond that, it's not putting your money to work. And building wealth in the beginning is always like walking up a hill, but with not investing, it keeps being like walking up a hill. So by not investing, people leave a lot of money on the table. And by that also, a comfortable life, and especially an independent life. So this is an important one, even when you make mistake number 4, and that is invest into shady financial products. Now, what do I mean by that? There are financial products that give you a good return. There are also other financial products that also give someone else a good return. This, for example, can be insurances that you don't really need and that you don't benefit from. In Germany, for example, people rather tend to be overinsured. So having an insurance for literally everything, although in most cases they would probably save more when just paying for the thing. I think a good rule of thumb here is if the thing you insure would have a huge financial impact on your situation. This can also be financial products that combine different things, like for example, life insurance and saving for retirement. Now those bundled products often have many costs hidden inside them. So it pays out to take a closer look at the conditions and maybe run some numbers. It may be that you're better off when just keeping them separate. And bad money decision number 5 is no decision at all, because sometimes making no decision can also be a bad decision. When it comes to money, this can be, for example, not setting financial goals for yourself, and without goals you also don't have a direction. It can be not thinking about taking the job that pays better, or not thinking about that when really building wealth you might come to a point where you don't have to take a job at all because you're financially free. It cannot be taking care of insurances and then risking financial trouble. It can be denying that personal finance is something you can learn and you also should learn. And since we're talking about this, making an active decision regarding all the life areas, not just finances, actually leads to a higher life satisfaction and also happiness. Well, now that you've learned about the bad decisions to avoid in personal finance, you can start to build up some good money habits by watching this video next. Thank you for watching. I hope you got some value out of this. Have a great rest of your day, and I hopefully see you in the next video. Bye bye.